Welcome back, and today I'm going to be testing a strategy. I haven't done this for a while. This is actually quite an old strategy that I haven't seen before, but I stumbled across it and thought it was worth giving it a try. The strategy is actually tested in this video, and it's from a strategy that's described in this video. Now in this video, the tester does indicate toward the end of the video that the results he obtained seem too good to be true and they're worth validating. And I'll explain a little later in this video why I think that's the case. But for now, let's get on and we'll quickly write the expert advisor so that we can test this in the MetaTrader backtester, and then we'll run some tests and see how they compare. So now I'm in the MT5 editor. I've already started the file here. It's called Scalper MSA or Scalper MA RSI Fractal, and I've got a comment in here already. These are the links to the two videos that I mentioned, and I'll also put these in the description on this video. Now, as the name suggests, the strategy is based on moving averages, RSI, and fractals. It uses in the referenced videos indicators on TradingView, and the first is a triple moving average, which a lot of indicators that you find on TradingView are there simply to combine other indicators because there is a limit on free TradingView accounts of 3 indicators only. So the triple moving average is nothing more than 3 moving averages. So I won't bother to try to reproduce the triple moving average indicator. I'll just use 3 moving averages here. So let's begin with some inputs. I'm importing the trade.mqh file because I'm going to be needing that. So the first inputs are the fast, mid, and the slow moving average periods at 21, 50, and 200 as they were described in the strategy. I don't have any inputs here for the applied price because that is the close price for everything according to the strategy, and also all of these use the smooth moving average. And then for the RSI, I just have the RSI period at 14, and there are no inputs to fractals. Now there is one difference between the strategy as described in these two videos. The first uses points for take profit, and the second sets the take profit based on a ratio of profit to loss. So I'm going to have 2 inputs. I'm going to have take profit points and a win-loss ratio, and you simply set one of these to 0 and set the other to whatever you want to use. I find that there's not a material difference in the way the strategy operates between these two. And then of course I have standard inputs for the volume, magic number, and the comment. With these 5 indicators, I'll need handles to each of the indicators. So I declare those as global variables: the fast, mid, and the slow moving average, the RSI handle, and the fractal handle. When I run this, just because of the way I've written it, I'm going to be calling a single function to return the values for all of these handles, and it will return them by setting global variables. So I need to define those global variables. And that's just one for each indicator. But for the fractal, I've actually got 2. I've got the up value and the down value because they come as different buffers on the fractal indicator. I'm going to have another global variable because I am allowing, as I show here, take profit to be set in points, but I like to convert that once only at the beginning of the code to a double value, so I don't need to keep doing the conversion from points to value throughout the code. So I'll put that value into this take profit global variable. And then I already have the include for trade.mqh. I just need to declare an object of type cTrade. The onInit is going to be very simple. I'm going to call a function for init indicators, so I'll set up each of these indicators in that one function rather than do it here. It's just the way I like to write the code. And then I set the expert magic number on the trade object to the input magic, and here is where I'm converting that take profit points into a take profit. I'm using a standard function that I have called points to double. I will leave a link in the description and if I remember on screen where you can find that already described. So now I'll just create this init indicators function. And the first thing I like to do is release the handles, just in case I've had a reinitialization, the handles are already in use. I'm going to release them and then reset them. And I'm going to put all of the indicator release in this release handles function. And then the moving averages are just IMA, symbol, period, and then the fast, mid, and slow period. They're all smooth moving average and they're all using close price. The RSI is just as simple, using the close price and the RSI period. And now here is where I hit the first problem. I could use iFractals. It's an inbuilt indicator in MetaTrader, but this behaves differently to the fractal indicator that was used in TradingView in the examples. If you see the referenced videos, they mention that you need to wait for the bar to close because the chevron for the fractal indicator can repaint while the candle is still in progress. In MetaTrader, the chevron on the current candle doesn't appear. It simply doesn't put that indicator there. It doesn't even put the indicator there as soon as the next candle opens. MetaTrader 5 will wait until the candle after that opens. So you need one complete candle after a chevron appears. Let me just show back on the chart for a moment. So you can see in this image where I've highlighted that chevron would not appear until the following candle actually closes, which is at the point where the candle after that opens. So that's the difference between the way that the indicator works in MetaTrader and the way it works in TradingView. So I've chosen not to use these simple ifractals. MetaTrader does provide here in the indicators. It actually provides this fractals.mq5 as a free example indicator. So what I've done is take a copy of that and modify it so that it will actually draw the chevron during the currently open candle and not wait for 2 more candles before it's drawn. And that way I can simulate more closely what's happening in the videos from TradingView. So now I won't make you sit through all of that. I've already done the work, and I created an indicators folder inside the Scalper MA RSI fractal, so it's inside the same folder where my expert advisor is. I created a folder called indicators, and I have fractals.mq5 in here. I've done that because when I include an indicator in my expert advisors, I like to make sure that the indicator isn't going to change randomly somewhere else, and so I've got a copy here that will always be the same unless I actually know that I'm making a change to it. So now to use this custom indicator instead of the inbuilt indicator, I'm going to use a technique, and I've described this previously in a video showing how to safely use custom indicators and not worry about whether they're installed on the target computer. And I will leave a link to the video on that as well. But here I'm defining the fractal indicator path, which is in indicators fractals.ex5, and it's relative, so there's no leading slashes here. The resource name / indicator path, and then I'm defining fractal indicator as this : fractal indicator path. So see the other video for more of a description on that. And so instead of setting fractal handle to the ifractals, I'm going to replace that with an iCustom symbol period and the fractal indicator. It still has no inputs, but that's this defined fractal indicator, which is : and the path to the file. Of course, trade.set expert magic number, and then here's the take profit where I'm converting points to double. And while I'm here, I also have this release handles function. That's nothing more than a series of indicator release statements. And I have put it into a separate function here because I'm calling it there when I init the indicators, but also on deinit, I can call the release handles here without having to duplicate all of the code for the release. Now in OnTick, the strategy videos describe that you need to wait for the current candle to finish so that you have that confirmed chevron at the end of the candle. And so this is only trading at the beginning of a new candle. So I have this statement, bool new bar equals is new bar function. That's something I've described many times. And if you haven't seen that already, I'll again leave a link in the description where you can find the is new bar function. So if this is not a new bar, then I simply return. Then I call refresh indicators, which fills the values in those global variables from each of the indicators that I have. I get the high and the low values from bar number 1. So that's bar number 0 is the current bar, bar number 1 is the bar that's just closed. And then I have the tests on the fractal values. So the fractal up value means the chevron is above the bar. Fractal down value means it's below the bar. And I want to make sure there is something there. So the fractal simply has an empty value, or it could have a 0. I have had some cases where it's returned as a 0 if there is no chevron there. Otherwise, it won't be an empty value and it will not be 0. So then I want to go into the inside of these if statements and process to determine if the other indicators are lined up. So for a short trade, there's a chevron above, so I have a fractal up value. The RSI is below 50. The high for the closed candle is below the fast moving average value. The fast value is below the mid value, and the mid value is below the slow value. And if all of that is true, then the moving averages and the RSI, which are the trend indicators, are showing that we're in a downtrend, and the fractal value on the high side shows we've had a small pullback. So I'm going to open a sell trade, and I'm passing in the high value here because that's going to be the stop loss according to the strategy, and there's no point in calculating it a second time, so I've already got it there, so I just pass that stop loss in here. And then of course I do the same on the opposite direction. If the fractal's below the price, then it's a downward pullback, so I want to buy, and all of these conditions are simply reversed. So now to look at the refresh indicators function. The fast moving average value, mid and slow, I'm just using get indicator value, which is another function I'm about to write, to get the value of index number 1 in this case, from buffer number 0 for the moving averages, buffer number 0 for the RSI because they only have that one buffer, and for fractals I'm calling the get indicator value twice, once for the upper line and once for the lower line. Get indicator value is very simple. MetaTrader 5 returns values from an indicator as an array, but I only need a single value. So rather than duplicate this code for each of these indicators, I've just created a single function for it. I pass in the handle, the buffer number that I want, and the index of the bar number that I want the value for. Then I declare an array of doubles. I call the copy buffer function to fill that array. I only want one value back, beginning at position index, and then I simply return value 0 because values will only have one element in it. So now the open position. I'm opening a market order. It's either a sell or a buy. It's going to be opened at the current market price, and I'm passing in the stop loss. And note that this is not the same as the fractal value. The fractal values actually show where the chevron's been drawn, which is above or below the high or low of the bar. So this is actually the high or low of the bar that has the fractal, which is also the recent swing high or swing low value. So then open position, the price is the open price for the symbol and type, and again open price is a standard function that I use, and I'll leave a link where you can see that if you haven't already seen it, but it basically just returns the bid or the ask price depending whether I'm in buy or sell mode. The take profit price then is calculated because that's the get take profit price, and because I have two ways of setting that. It could be a points or it could be a ratio of stop loss to take profit, and then volume is just the input volume, and then I simply use the trade object, position open, and pass in all of those values. So the get take profit price function, passing in the order type, the entry price, and the stop loss price. So by this time I've calculated the entry price, and that is so that I can calculate the distance between the entry price and the stop loss price if I need it. I'll initialize the take profit price to 0, and then, as I said, the inputs. If the take profit is greater than 0, then it means I've specified a points-based take profit, and then the take profit price is just equal to, and I'm using the ternary operator here, if type %2 equals 0, that means it's a buy. Then it's the entry price plus the take profit amount, and if it's not a buy, then it must be a sell, and then it's the entry price minus the take profit amount. Else, so I'm only allowing you to set either the take profit or the ratio. If the ratio is greater than 0, then the take profit price is equal to the entry price plus the difference between the stop loss and the entry price multiplied by the ratio. If both of these have been set to 0, then you'll simply reach this point with the take profit price still 0, which means there will be no take profit set. And then take profit price is equal to, and I just do a normalized double on that and return the take profit price. And that should be everything now. I've put in the utility functions that I talked about earlier, the new bar, the open price, and points to double. Just do a quick compile to make sure I don't have a typing error. I don't. And so we can now run some tests on this. So now with the code written, I'm ready to do a demonstration here. I've got the scalper MA RSI fractal loaded. I'm using a 5-minute chart because the videos talked about this being a scalping strategy. I'm going to start with Aussie CAD, but I'll trade a number of symbols just to try them out. And I'm running every tick based on real ticks. So I want to simulate live trading as much as possible. So Aussie CAD, Euro, Aussie US, Pound dollar, and dollar yen. So I don't think I need to test anymore. We can see that it's just not performing well. And the next step is to understand why the earlier strategy test showed significantly better results. So to explain why I think this problem happens, I've got the chart up here and I've highlighted just one of the chevrons. Now this meets all the conditions. The price is below the fast moving average, which is below the mid, which is below the slow moving average. The RSI is below 50 and I have an upper chevron, so I've had an upper pullback. And at that point I should trade, and it looks like it would be a winning trade. But although I've modified the indicator to draw these chevrons as they are drawn on TradingView, they are still repainting. And before we get to that point, there would have been a chevron here because that candle also meets the criteria that it is higher than the two before. And so if we're trading this live, the subsequent candles would not be there and we would have taken a trade there. That trade would have been immediately stopped out by the next candle, which is yet again a signal to enter, until finally that is stopped out by this signal. Now, if you look at the video where this is tested on TradingView, he's testing it by a visual analysis of the charts and then drawing the trading boxes on the chart to show how the trade would have run. But by the time he looks at the chart, it's only showing this highlighted chevron because the other two have repainted and disappeared because the subsequent candles have been higher. So what he's doing is missing out on all of the bad trades that you would have taken in any sequence where we had progressively higher candles, or going the opposite direction, progressively lower candles. And this happens quite often. So we get a lot more losing trades than winning trades. And I actually believe that is the biggest reason for the significant difference between my results and those shown on the TradingView test. Because when you look at this in pure hindsight, all of those false signals have already disappeared. Still, there are a number of things you might want to do with this strategy to try to improve it. You might want to make the stop loss higher. You might want to wait to apply the stop loss until there are no more chevrons being created. But as it stands, I don't think this is a good strategy at all. If you've had some value from this, then please click the like button. And if you want to see more of our videos, click subscribe. And if you click the bell icon, you'll be notified when new videos are released. Thank you for watching.